Hey everybody, welcome to Red Eye's Funny Talk, where we interview Chicago area comedians about the Chicago area comedy scene. I'm your host, Andy Boyle, and with us this week we have Adam Burke.
And the most telling thing of the entire night is how far the research room is from the anchor desk at Fox News. It was a 25-minute walk. She had to duck under steam pipes, wipe cobwebs out of the way. At one point, she had to spell out the name Jehovah on old paving stones.
Thanks very much for having me. This is great.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
First off, tell us about your accent.
Yeah, I know. I just realized if my accent had a name, it would be Captured Spy, because it sounds like I'm attempting 3 other accents at the same time and failing at all of them. I know it's weird. I've lived in the States for like 10 years, but I grew up in England and Northern Ireland. But I've never sounded like I'm from anywhere real. I suppose Narnia would be a good name. Yeah, it sounds made up.
That's great, from Narnia. So, how did you get started doing comedy in Chicago?
I actually, funnily enough, through writing, I was doing some freelance work for a magazine, and they asked me to pitch some pieces, and I just met a Chicago stand-up. This is 7 years ago now, yikes. And he was talking about how, because at that time sketch and improv was very much on the ascendance, and he was saying it was hard for stand-ups to get stage time in the city, so I thought that'd be interesting. So I researched that for about 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks, and then at the end of it, for the hell of it, I did some time at an open mic. And then I kind of forgot to stop doing that. And that was 7 years ago.
What was your first time like?
The first joke I did got a huge laugh, and then the next 3 minutes were just bemused silence from everybody. So it was like the first joke, I was like, okay, I got this. And then I promptly found out I did not indeed.
That's great.
Have it, yeah.
Did you find it hard to actually get stage time? Was he right?
It was back then. It was weird. Yeah, back then it was different from the situation now, because back then it sounds like I'm talking about a long time ago, but I think it really has flipped, because in the last 3 years we've added 3 full-time comedy clubs in the city, within the city proper. The improv has been there for a while, but really there was only Zanies was the only full-time. Zanies and Jokes and Notes, sorry, I should say. Zanies and Jokes and Notes were the only 2 full-time comedy clubs in the city, and then we've added since then up the Laugh Factory and I'm missing one, which is
Up the Laugh Factory and a Comedy Bar.
And the Comedy Bar.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, you run your own show. You have a couple, but one of them on Fridays at the Everleigh Social Club.
Yes.
The Wiggle Room. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's with funny enough, Michelle Lamore, who's like a world famous burlesque dancer, and her co-producer Frankie Vivid. We just started doing that. We started doing it on and off about a year and a half ago. We would do like 6-week runs, and then we switched to Friday at 10, and then we have an open run now, and it's been really good. It's been really successful. So it's comedy. It's actually a lot of comedy. You'll see. Normally I'll host it, and then you'll see 2 Chicago comics or someone else sometimes, someone from out of town sometimes. They'll do like a 20-minute set. So you'll see 2 20-minute sets, then me doing my idiocy, and then you'll see 4 burlesque numbers, and it's sort of all interwoven, and it feels very old-fashioned, because that's very much the model. We just kind of wanted to do something that was really simple, because it's just 6 people really, but it feels like this huge show. But I probably shouldn't have given that away. but it is simple. But it's a great show because it's very intimate. It's very, you're very close to the performance. So yeah, I loved it. It's one of my favorite things to do.
And then part of your job is also to act like a host and bring up the performance.
I very much, and that's the other thing I love about doing it is that when I host it, when I go up, I literally don't know what I'm going to say. I mean, I might segue into jokes that I've done before and that kind of thing, but I literally just talk to the audience because it's so intimate. There's, you have to let everyone know that we're all in the room together, kind of thing. So it's really fun. I love hosting that room.
That's really cool. And one of the other shows you do on Thursdays, you do the Parlour Car showcase at Bar de Ville.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no. How's that different?
It's different. I mean, that is very much more of a classic Cosmopolitan Comedy Showcase. We put up like 6 people. They'll do anywhere between 8 and 15 minutes. Again, I don't know why I signed this contract with myself where I only do rooms that have Victorian furniture, but both of them have very look like your grandmother's furniture for some reason. But yeah, that's intimate. But that's very much more of a classic sort of company. That one's going really well as well. And what's really cool, what's very nice is that when we have New York comedians come in, they're kind of blown away by that room a little bit because we get. We kind of fill it out. Again, it's very intimate, it's very small, but there's a real sort of energy to it, and I co-produced that with Matty Ryan, who's a very funny guy.
Yeah, very funny.
Jeff Steinberg.
Well, very cool. What's like the biggest change you've noticed in the, since you started doing comedy in Chicago that you've noticed in the comedy scene?
In this scene, I would say, like I said, so when I first started, I met this sort of nerdy but very impressively tall chap called Mike Palisak, and we'd started to know, some people had left, you know what I mean, where Pete Holmes had just left, and I kind of knew his name. T.J. Miller had just left, and I would meet him at open mics and that kind of thing. So they hadn't yet hit the big time in that way. They were sort of doing small things, and then all of a sudden, in the past 3 years, we've had people like Cal Kinane and Hannibal Buress, and more laterally people like Cameron Esposito who sort of come out. And then Chicago is known as a brand, as a stand-up brand in the country now, which is good and bad, because I've heard from people out in LA, they're just like, oh, more Chicago. And I think that wasn't necessarily true 7 years ago. In the same way that sketch and improv is a brand, that's sort of a known entity out on the coasts. Because they knew of Second City and they knew of I.O., you know what I mean? But I think now there's a sort of a Chicago stamp on stand-up, which is weird. And also because we'll go out, and because Chicago comedians will have, by the time they leave here, they'll have anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour and a half of material. It's kind of ridiculous. So they come out and they're like, oh, I have a one-man show basically in my head. And everyone else is like, well, I have 10 minutes. You know what I mean? It's a really good 10 minutes. But so I think that has changed. That sort of evolution of sort of a style. And also having full-time comedy clubs in your city just changed because you can work, you know what I mean? The idea that you can work and get regular feature work. Is just different because you got to go to work because then you can't again what's going to work in your really super hip Bucktown basement isn't necessarily going to work when people are coming into the town from the weekend. You know what I mean? So it forces you to have a voice that's strong enough for everybody. So I don't know if that's too technical. I never give.
It's great.
Whenever people ask me about comedy, I never give particularly funny answers about it, which is terrible because I look like a college professor and I have to turn everything into a semester's worth of knowledge. I don't know why. But, yeah.
Well, great. Well, speaking of giving us some knowledge, coming up next we have our 5 questions with our really expensive. Guide here. So basically, we're just going to ask you 5 questions about Chicago. Yeah. You being a knowledgeable human being, we'll see what you got.
Presumably, this is going to be replaced with CGI. And
yes.
This is going to be.
This is going to be something with much higher or lower production value. So I'm just going to do this here. All right. What's the best place to take a person you met at a 4 a.m. bar on a date?
Breakfast. I would have thought. I think that's what you want to do, right? I mean, that is a really good question. The most depressing place is back to that same bar, because you don't want to recreate the conditions under which you met. Like you don't want to go back to that bar and go, "Wow, it was incredibly dark in here," and lighting wasn't optimal for either of us. I would say. The greasiest breakfast. I would go with the Chicago. I always get the name of it wrong. The place on Irving Park. People will know what I'm talking about. It's spelled diner on one side and dinner on the other. It's at Irving Park in Ashland. That's a great place to get all the grease and shame out of your system.
Great. Well, now that the ambulances are going by, let's go to the next question.
Yeah. You can take them to the hospital sometimes.
Yeah, depending on.
Look at that.
There you go. Production value. What would you put on the official Chicago-style hamburger?
Okay, I need some background on this because I understand the Chicago-style hot dog. What is the Chicago-style hamburger? This is
There isn't one.
Oh,
That's
I
why.
see.
So the idea being, there's a Chicago-style hot dog. If we were going to make a
okay.
Chicago-style hamburger, what do you think would go on it?
Tears of a Cubs fan. You'd soak the bread in that. Probably a deep dish pizza. You would just put a slice of that on top. And then the phone number of a local reputable ambulance service. So that once you have the heart attack, you can get that sorted. Yeah.
Great. All right. Next question. You get one animal from the Lincoln Park Zoo as a buddy for a day. Which do you pick, and what nickname do you give the animal?
The problem is, I haven't been to the Lincoln Park Zoo in a while. Can I change the question? Because I will.
Yeah,
I would much
sure.
rather hang out with. I hope this isn't a problem, but I did recently go to the Brookfield Zoo, and there was. It was really inspiring because we went into the echidna enclosure, and I don't know if they were having an off day or they didn't realize that people would be in, but they were keeping these. Do you know what an echidna is?
I do not.
It's one of those weird Australian animals where sometimes Australian animals looks like they try to recreate a regular animal, but they got all the measurements wrong.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's this sort of awful off-brand. That's what an echidna is, and they were keeping them in these little wooden boxes. It looked like The Great Escape, and at one point, one of the echidnas. Its claws came through the wooden enclosure while we were there. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I'd like to hang out with that animal because I like its spirit.
What name would you give it?
Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen. All right. Fourth question. For $25, would you take someone who just heckled you and ruined a show out for pancakes?
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I'm perfectly capable of ruining a show on my own. So, well, I need more background to this question because for the $25, am I expected to buy his pancakes out of the $25?
I think you get $25 and then the pancakes are paid for as well.
Oh.
So whatever you both order, that's paid for plus $25 on top.
Yeah, it depends because some shows don't pay that well. I would do that. I don't know. I would turn them into pancakes though. The big thing that I make, I'll just hit them with a pancake. I don't know. But that would be awkward though. But the kind of person who would heckle though would probably eat your pancakes, right? Isn't that a metaphor for what a heckler does?
They think they can eat your pancakes better than you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this is how you eat a pancake. Yeah.
Okay, great. And our last question: if you had to live on one train line, which would it be and why?
Oh man, these are good questions.
Yeah.
I have a real hard time because I'm thinking about this too, practically now because I'm thinking about where do I need to get to. Well, presumably, if I'm living on the train line, all my stuff is there. I'm essentially working from home. I hate to say this. I feel like this question probably labels you as something. You know what I mean?
It could.
I feel like, am I going to start getting mail based on the answer to my question? Well,
Do you still get mail?
I do still get mail. Yeah, I'm one of the few people. Yeah, I'm going to start getting spam mail. But, well, we hear you're a brown line person. I think I would probably go red line.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's what I would pick as well.
Really?
So we're in this together.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, because it's just straight. It's pretty much straight up and down.
Yeah, you can get you wherever you got to go for the most
Yeah,
part.
Okay, awesome. Right.
Great.
I'll see you there.
All right.
We kind of both look like we live on the red line.
Yes, we do. All right. Well, we'll just let that fall down.
That's so great.
Do you have anything else you'd like to plug or anything else you'd like to talk about?
You know what, you covered the big ones. Everlay and Parlour Car are what I'm really proud of. I am doing a weird thing with a magazine called Make on December the 5th at the Hideout at 8 p.m. We're doing something called the Adam Burke Show, and it's gonna be weird. I'm gonna be interviewing like lots of people I'm not used to interviewing, and we're gonna try to recreate a 70s style sort of a Dick Cavett kind of talk show. We'll see how it goes.
Very cool.
I have to go shopping for blazers and that, but we'll see.
Thanks for watching Red Eye's Funny Talk. I'm Andy Boyle. This is Adam Burke. We appreciate you guys checking it out. Check out next week when we have another awesome comedian on. Thanks.